So what am I doing here with this hose, with this foam padded end? Well, I'm trying to find the water leak in this 300 SD. And when you do this, you need to go through a sequence, a logical sequence of trying to isolate where the leak is originating from. If you just pour the whole car down with water, you know, that's never going to work. I always have this sequence. But we've got a lot of water on the driver's floor, driver's side right here, underneath where your feet rest. And it's either coming through the sunroof and down through the drain, it's coming through the windshield seal, it may be coming in from some rust out in the vent, or it's coming in through the firewall. So, you know, we're not just gonna sit here and spray water around. We'll never figure out where that leak's coming from. So to begin with, I'm letting it thoroughly soak up into that intake air vent area. You wouldn't believe how many times on these old Mercedes I've pulled the screen off to find out some of the sealing compound, remember the factory uses a seam sealer in there, has let loose, or we've got some rusted out holes. So all that water coming into the fresh air vents is leaking right into the cabin. Oh, what a mess that can be. And then I've seen other times where you've got leaks in the drain areas, they've rusted through, so we're gonna be isolating this first, then I'm gonna check this area next, then we're gonna go after the sunroof. Sometimes you can have a leak between where the drain hose connects to the sunroof inner panel before it gets out and drains out here on the ground. So there's no way that you can determine immediately, unless you're lucky. Okay, I shouldn't say no way. But generally what I found with these old cars that are 30 years and older is that the leaks come from more than one area. So I'm going to go in the car now. Now remember, when you do this, you want to completely pull the carpets out, pull those under dash panels off, and I'm going to look in here. And you've got to really be patient. Sometimes it can take a very long time running that water before the leak will show up here, because it's kind of running down in behind the insulation, it's soaking up the insulation, and it's taking a while before it rears its ugly head as wetness on the floor. But right now, that kind of looks okay. And as a final tip, anytime you're doing this, you know, go get some of that pipe insulation and kind of protect the end of the hose so you don't scratch your paint. This is the way I found the leak, at least the primary leak in this 300 SD. I always start at the bottom and then work my way up, because if you're going to wet down the top first, it's going to run into this area. So I began by thoroughly wetting the intake air vent cavity, which has two drains coming out of the firewall, and sometimes these cavities will rust out or the seam sealing compound will let loose, and you'll have water leaking from that fresh air vent cavity into the cabin of the car. So I let this sit and run here for about 15 minutes. Once again, you have to be really patient. Don't expect the leak to show up immediately, because a lot of times there's a small leak and it takes quite a while for the water to soak through the insulation and work its way down to the floor in the cabin area so you can actually see, yes, that is indeed the leak. So I ran this here for about 15 to 20 minutes, kept checking inside the car, nothing. So the next thing I did was I run the water right here. So what this is going to prove is whether or not I've got a leak somewhere along the bottom of that firewall seam, or something is leaking in through the firewall in the wiring of the grommets or something. Notice here that I'm letting the water run as if it were coming down the windshield and running into this hood area and then going out the drains. So I'm going to let this run for a while. While this runs like that, you can see why it's important to use some sort of insulation on the tip of the hose. I'm going to open up the door here. Oh boy, we've got drips. It's dripping down right up by where the hood release cable comes through the firewall. So this is going to take some more thorough investigation, but I tell you, looks like we're getting close to finding out the real culprit. So I'm going to run this into the shop, and we're going to take a real close look. We're going to open up the hood and really look this area down. And we'll just leave it wet right now. We'll get it in very quickly. And we should be able to get a pretty good clue Now once I'm in the shop, I can put a drain pan underneath and just do some isolating pouring here to determine where that leak is coming from. It's somewhere right in this area. I just can't believe what I found after getting this car inside and letting this area dry out in here. I've seen a lot of things cause leaks before, but this one's kind of a new one. If you look right here, this is the grommet that goes through the firewall, and this is the hood release cable. And the hood release cable goes right through the grommet, and right next to it is a hole for another wire or another vacuum hose or whatever that needs to go into the car. And it's open. Look at this. I can put a pick in there that goes all the way through. So what was happening, this is really unusual, the water would run off here, would get underneath the hood, run off here, and it would just go right down and hit that hole and pour right into the cabin. Can you believe that? All I would have needed to do is just plug that up with something. But I've been looking around this area, and this may not be the only problem right here. You see a lot of wetness in this firewall seam down here with the inner fender panel may be a problem, but like with so many of these leaks, don't assume that when you find one that that's the only one. But we need to fix this. Once we fix this leak here, then we can go out and retest. But I don't like the looks of this old grommet, plus the fact that the cable's running real stiff. We just broke the lever the other day trying to open the hood. So let me show you how I'm going to fix this. So I've just ordered in a new hood release cable for a W116 chassis, and it comes with a grommet. But guess what? This grommet also has a through hole. I've seen a number of these grommets where they have extra holes, but the holes are plugged off with rubber, and you're supposed to cut through them. But this new grommet has a hole there, so I'm going to have to find some sort of plug, something like this that I can come in here and plug this with after I install the grommet in the firewall. This is the cable. This is what it looks like. It runs all the way from here, along here, and right underneath along the inner fender panel and through the grommet and over to the lever. So anytime you find that your cable's tight and you have to pull really hard to open it, you want to fix it. You don't know how many customers we've had email me and say, Kent, my hood release cable broke and I can't get the hood open. So when you find you're having to pull real hard on it, you need to fix it before it breaks and leaves that hood stuck closed.